be one last ride for this team. And I think, once we get to training camp, I'll explain it more in depth where, instead of just talking all season about who's going to get paid and what's going to look like, what IU's going to cost, all this stuff with money and draft pick, just enjoy what could be the last ride for this core group. And hopefully they end it with the championship, a Super Bowl championship. Because right now I feel like when it comes to Draymond Green, right, and what the rhetoric is, you don't never hear nobody, we don't talk about him being a 4-time champ or a DPOY, being one of the smartest defenders we've ever seen in the league. We talk about what he says on the podcast over and over and over again. Well, the rhetoric when it comes to Debo and Kittle, I don't want to hear, Kittle only got 2 targets in the Super Bowl, or Debo can't get off a press man. These guys are they're all-time Niners. They're all-time Niners, historic Niners. We're going to discuss George Kittle's being one of the best tight ends in 49ers franchise history. We're going to discuss Deebo Samuel being one of the best playmakers we've ever seen in a 49er uniform. He's going to be up there on a short list with the TLs, the Jerry Rices, guys who have been all-time playmakers with the Niners. I don't want it to turn into, boy, this is why they haven't won the Super Bowl, why this guy is overpaid, because we do that in sports so much now. So much. And we forget how good these guys are and how they've helped make the 49ers relevant again. They're the pioneers of this regime. Well, Kittle, Deebo, and all these guys. And I feel like we're getting away from that slowly but surely.
But that's not like the media nor the fans' fault. That the players themselves are the ones coming out saying it.
Yes, they are. But as fans, we're quick to pivot and move off these guys.
Everybody, we're following all the stuff. And I don't blame the fans. Like Travis Ward's the one who went on the.
I'm not blaming the fans. I'm just asking for some of the fans to say. I'm just asking because we do this in sports. We did this last week, right? And I said this on Twitter. And this is basically a platform for fans, right? And you have the conversations with people on the street. The Niners have had a more successful decade than the Giants. I think any rational human being would think about that. Yeah. But you also get it like, well, what have they done? Success is only gained by winning Super Bowls. That's what the Niners. You can laugh, but a lot of fans feel like that.
A
lot of fans feel like that. And so what I'm saying is, if they don't win the Super Bowl, the Kittles and Debos and how they get remembered, it's going to be drastically different. Some people say, yeah, they couldn't get it done. Debo was never really a wide receiver in the first place. I already know what they're going to say. George Kittle, yeah, he ain't no Kelsey. He ain't no Antonio Gates. I mean, he's not this, he's not that.
Do we look at Patrick Willis? Like, I think, if anything, Niner fans ride or die for Patrick Willis. He didn't win anything, quote unquote. Right?
I would hope they do the same for Kittle and Debo. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think over time we will. I think over time we will.
Because you know how fast. Because it's
you're right.
There's
always going to be a segment of you didn't win it all, so everything's negated, and that's ridiculous. You probably didn't see this clip, but it was circulating across the internet the last 2 days. It was the Tennessee baseball coach, the Volunteers baseball coach, and how they define success. Did you happen to see that?
I did not see that.
It was very interesting, and they were saying, like, if you don't win it all, is this year a success? And he's like, Are you serious? Do you know how difficult it is to win it all? And he went on this long 7-minute diatribe about how this guy who played center field, who had been struggling, crashed into a wall and broke his nose, and how like he's going to be able to walk into that facility for the rest of his life and tell his kids, like, I was a freaking gamer. And yeah, like maybe he didn't win like the ultimate championship, but he was hella successful because of where he came from and what he did. And like I look at like the 49ers of the Harbaugh era. It's the most heartbreaking era. But I look back at that with like, yes, pain that we didn't win it, but I ride for Vernon Davis and Joe Staley and Frank Gore and Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis and Justin Smith and even Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith to a degree.
Do they ride for Kaepernick? I don't think we ride for Kaepernick as well as we should. You know what I'm saying? As a fan base. And I hope at the end of this regime with Kittle and Debo, and if they don't get that ring, will we ride for them the same way we ride for Willis and company? I hope so.
I mean, haven't we the last few years?
It doesn't feel like it.
What do you mean?
We've talked about trading Debo for 3 years.
Well, that's because you can't afford everyone.
Right, but no, not only that, it's also because of what he's done on the field. Or what people say, well, we have Christian McCaffrey. If you're not running the jet sweep with Debo, what does he do well? Oh, he's not a great route runner, and I disagree with that. Did you not see the 9 catches against Detroit in the NFC Championship game? I can highlight a number of games with Debo Samuel has been impactful as a wide receiver. The rhetoric around Debo has been back and forth. The pendulum was swung left or right. He better show up for this one because he talks too much. The Eagles game, I'll never forget, people were like, oh, he better show up for the Philadelphia. It's like, don't worry about Debo. He's a big game player. And what did he do in that big game? He balled out. So I hope we remember him the same way as Patrick Willis and Frank Gore and Navarro Bowman and Joe Staley.
I think Fred Warner and all these guys are going to be remembered in a good light. But, of course you got to win it all. That's to become legendary. I'm talking about all-time legendary. You got to win the big one. History doesn't remember John Brodie. Trust me. I talk about it all the time. We don't remember Forrest Blue, Leo the Lion Nomalini. I can go right down the list and name all the legendary Niners from the 70s, 60s, and 50s, even into the 40s. We don't remember those champions the same way we remember Dwight Clark. Right? Freddie Solomon, prior to Dwight Clark, was as impactful, if not more, during his tenure with the 49ers. Why do we remember Dwight Clark the way we do? Well, obviously, his impact on the city and how we culturally connected with him, because they won championships with him. Now, Freddie was on that original team, but you get where I'm going with that. I hear you. I do think that, Kaepernick is a whole unique, though. He occupies a unique space for a variety of reasons because it was supercharged because we wrapped politics around it, and it sucks. I remember Kaepernick fondly. I know a lot of people, you bring up the name and they're triggered by it because of, a lot of different things. And so, to your point, no, I don't think we ride for Kaepernick appropriately as a united fan base.
We ride for Alex Smith more so than Colin Kaepernick. And Colin Kaepernick was so much more successful than Alex Smith in the Niner uniform. It's not even funny. But you see Alex Smith, he comes back to the Dwight Clark Dane. God bless Alex Smith. He had a solid NFL career. I'm not going to say great because he wasn't great. I'm going to just keep it real on the field. He's a great human being. He's a great person for what he does off the football field. But on the football field, he wasn't great.
I also think that his best years by far were with Kansas City, not with the Niners, which is not remembered that way. And because of the way his career ended.
But you see this region ride for Alex Smith a lot harder than Colin Kaepernick. And because I get the political stance and everything like that, it was, it divided a lot of people. I think Alex
lost losing his job the way he did. I think that, and I will still stand with that decision. I do think that made him a sympathetic individual.
No doubt. Let's go to Trucker George in the Port of Oakland. I'll turn to Port of Oakland, man. Trucker George, what's happening?
Hey, representing, man. I want to say first off for you guys, I'm speaking to two fellow city brethren, man. We're proud of you guys. Joe, been following since the butcher shop, and Bonte, we're always happy. We're always happy to see you on pre and post. City boys on the rise, guys. Good job. First off, and the only point I have is Bonte. I want to counter the slogan that you're always pushing that we shouldn't be pocket watching, because my city, our city, the 49ers, they seem to be on a money grab right now, and I don't think we should be talking about pocket watching anymore when the 49ers are obviously money grabbing anymore. And I'll leave you guys to it, man. Pride of Port out here, we doing our thing. Just please discuss further. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no. It's impossible to not discuss sports in 2024 with the way that the salaries are, with the cap, and how difficult it is to make a transaction, whether it's a signing or whether it's a trade, without discussing the finances of sports. It's the reality. We could call it pocket watching, but the reality is like there's an entire cottage industry of salary cap experts that to understand modern sports, you have to understand the finances.
It's not so much talking about the players' money and the salary cap. We all understand you have to talk about the cap because it's part of the sports. How you build your team, you can't build it if you don't have cap space. We're talking about first aprons and second aprons in the NBA. We talk about the CBT in baseball, the collective bargaining tax. We're going to talk about it. My thing is the way we discuss how a player should go about their business. We don't know what these negotiations are like between the agent and the front office. We understand organizations have a business to protect, and if you overpay somebody, it could enable you or hinder you from signing another player or building your roster out. But so we get so mad at the player for if it comes out reported, hey, the Niners offered, like Klay Thompson, for example. How many people were mad at Klay Thompson for not accepting a 2-year, $48 million deal extension with the Golden State Warriors? Some Warrior fans just say, well, they offered you $48 million. What else do you want? They paid you so much money, and you didn't play for 2 years. Well, Klay may know that he could get more money elsewhere, and he could maybe get more years.
But that's
So he has to
contradictory.
so he could see. So I'm not finished yet. He could see where he doesn't. A fan could get mad at him for not making $24 million. Klay says no to $24 million a year, right? And we as a fan could get mad at him for not doing that. But Klay will say, well, I could not only get more money elsewhere and more years elsewhere, but I don't feel like there's a respect from the organization. Well, the fan's going to be mad at the player no matter what. Why are we going to get mad at the player for being able to make more money and get more years on his deal elsewhere? Why would we get mad at that? We get mad at that all the time.
I'm confused by what you're saying. I think it's contradictory for the athlete to say, don't pocket watch, yet I'm going to pocket watch how many years you have. No. They could pay me a little more, even though you can't afford it because of how difficult it is to keep the roster together.
Not saying anything about the athlete, saying anything about pocket watching. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, as a fan base, we get mad as a player. It's been reported that Klay Thompson said no to a 2-year, $48 million extension.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of fans, we've taken a lot of calls when they get mad at Klay, said, well, they offered you 2 for 48. What more do you want? Well, Klay may be able to get more years and more money elsewhere. And we get mad at that for a player not signing an extension for 2 for 48, saying, well, you got $24 million and you didn't play for 2 years, you got all that money. Well, Klay may say, hey, I can go get more money and more years elsewhere. I can go do that. But it's a fan base or a certain fans who are saying, well, we offered you this. Why didn't you just take it? And the player can say, well, I can get more elsewhere. Same thing's happening with Brandon Ayuk, where he said, hey, I know I can go get more money elsewhere. Pay me what I'm
but this is
fans
what fans
turn on
But
you.
you can't say, okay, but this is where yes, there are going to be always
That's
a
what I'm
segment
saying.
of fans.
I'm not saying anything about the player
But this
pocket
isn't like
watching.
revelatory. Like there's always going to be a segment of fans that are like, come on, man. But you can't say, I want to stay here, I want to play, and the money's about where it needs to be, and then say, but I can go get way more money over there. It's like, well, that's hypocritical. So I think that less is more. And I look at someone like Christian McCaffrey and the way that he went about it, and I think that a lot of fans are like, this is what they think. Whether we believe it to be right or wrong, it's perceived by fans. That's the way to conduct your business. You're really, really good at what you do. Yeah, you could probably squeeze the organization for so much more. You negotiated behind closed doors, and then all of a sudden, boom, you popped out, and everybody said, wow, here's an extension. That's how every fan wants it to happen. It's not realistic. It's not how it normally gets done. And nothing was public. He didn't post anything. He didn't go on the Kay Adams show and talk about it. So, but he also has leverage that some of these other players don't have.
Yeah, Ayuk hasn't done any of that stuff. We're still mad about him. We're mad because he was dancing in an Instagram video after Amon-Ra St. Brown signed his deal. I thought what Debo did was a lot worse. I thought what Bosa did was a lot worse. Bosa didn't come out here. He didn't get out here to the Wednesday AMD season opener. And I was cool with it. Whatever. Signed the damn
I think
deal.
fundamentally, I think we just need to come to grips with, like, fans want their guys. Like, this is the setting. And it's unrealistic, but this is the setting. Fans want guys to play for cheap so they can load up the team, and they want them to play on their team for as long as they're good. And when they're not good, unless they give them a feel good, they want to move on. That's the setting in sports.
That's the setting with fans. So,
yeah, like that's what it is. And I'm not surprised by it. That's always been the setting.
So I'm not surprised by it, but that setting, we can't alter the setting when a player says, yeah, I'm not going to play for cheap. I want to get my bag. Because what would that player or that fan do in that same setting? Most fans in that setting will want to get their bag. I think every day people are making decisions to stay or leave or go to a different company for different reasons. And I always say QOL, and that's my algorithm, quality of life. Like that is a factor, not the number one factor, but that's a factor for me. Everyone has their own algorithm. What's the most factors?
What?
What's the most factors? For people.
Well, it depends.
Settings.
Like, where do I want my family to live? Right? Like that's a big thing. Like, do I want to? Some people move around the country, right? Like you see this all the time in certain industries.
Well, why would they move around the country? What's the number one factor?
To grow within the business, to make more money, to have more power. I don't know, to have a different.
It's money. Well, it's money. That's what we do. It's the bottom line. It's money. We all want to be rich.
Of course it is, but I'm saying it's not in every single. It's not in every single person's equation.
Not in every single person's equation. Would you say 80%?
I don't know. Money is always a factor, but there's lots and lots of factors.
All right. I don't get why we, as fans, we get so mad when a player, we see the $26 million. I saw it a lot yesterday. It's like, just take the 26. It's generational wealth. Just take the 26. Just take the 26. I don't know. It's kind of weird to me how we're evaluating these players and what motivates people to sign their deals or whatnot. But apparently there's money on the table, and the negotiations according to Jeremy Fowler have not intensified. But George Kittle,